And today, after doing Act 1 last week, we looked at starting in the status quo, resisting change, pulling our character out of the status quo, starting to break our world's status quo, cracking it a little bit with an inciting incident, calling our character onto an adventure, into their own transformation. Of course, the character is resistant to change, resistant to the adventure, afraid to go, refuses the call, and then eventually will find some sort of overcoming, resilience inside of themselves. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a lightsaber, some kind of supernatural aid or whatever that encourages the hero to believe that they can pursue the journey. And then they cross the threshold. Crossing the threshold, they go into the tornado, down the rabbit hole, into the belly of the whale, and we're talking about through the wardrobe. And of course, in the Matrix, through the mirror, and so on and so on, into the dream. Crossing the threshold into dream might be one of the easiest thresholds to remember. The threshold of falling asleep, and that liminal space between wake and sleep. That liminal space between wake and sleep is that threshold that you cross as you transition from being awake to entering your dreams. And that's the same as Act 1 to Act 2. We're going to go from the waking world, we're going to go from life at home into the dream, into the journey. Think of the journey as that dream other world, that place where we're going to go and transform and have experiential, exciting lessons. So today, the primary steps in Act 2, we're going to first talk about some of the things that Act 2 needs to accomplish, which is it needs to develop, cultivate further conflict. And then we're going to talk about the major steps in Act 2 according to these narrative structures. First, kind of entering into this belly of the whale experience, what happens when you get to the other world, when you first go into the deep end, when you first get shocked by the cold. Same thing, when COVID first happened, it's like, whoa, where am I? What's going on? And this is one of the things that happens when you are an initiate into a secret mystery society. You wear a blindfold. Beginning, early in the initiation, you're going to wear a blindfold because you can't know what's going on. So when you first, that's one of the first beats of getting to the other world. And you know what? That's going to tell the audience that this is a really weird world because the character doesn't know how to handle it. It communicates that we're out of water and we don't know what's going on. So this is that first kind of major step in the other world. And then we're going to start develop. We're going to learn how to handle this world. And in learning how to handle this world is finely tuned to make sure that we learn how to grow in the way we need to grow. Remember the mind worm? So this is a dream made for us, made for our character. And as we learn how to operate in this world, we're also cultivating the skills that we need to cultivate in ourselves that are missing, that have been lacking. And we're going to groove right on up to where we think things are going to go the way we think they're going to go, and then they're not. That's going to be the midpoint. Neo, you're the one. Let's go take you and find out. The Oracle's going to tell you you're the one. Neo, you're not the one. We're going to go to Alderaan and we're going to get Leia and then we're going to go save the galaxy. Okay, we get to Alderaan. It's exploded. There's a Death Star. It's bringing us in on their tractor beam. What's going on to Harry Potter at the midpoint of the first Harry Potter? He's on a broom going all over the place, losing control. Midpoint is when you lose control. And what you thought your plan was going to be is now thrown off. What your volition, what your will said, I'm going on this journey to do, is now thrown off. And the other thing that happens at the midpoint is we transition from, first we're in the other world, we're training, we're becoming Batman, we're becoming Iron Man, we're making our suit, we're becoming Spider-Man, we're learning how to sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? We're learning, we're growing. Cool. Midpoint is going to yank us back to the plot. What's really going on in the world. You're going to shift from that. So that fun part, it's one of our favorite parts of stories, is in between the end of Act 1 and the midpoint. That's when our characters just grow and just expand and train. Don't you love watching those training sequences? We all love training sequences. We can feel ourselves training and growing. That's that first half of Act 2. But then we got to get away from the training sequence. We got to get focused on the plot again. And that midpoint is going to take us that direction. And as it does, things are going to start getting bad, problematic, as we start to approach some kind of major event. And in the approach, this will be the big ordeal, and the ordeal is quite an event. There will be a kind of death of an ego, but then there'll also be kind of a discovery of a new insight. And what's going to happen is, remember that this is the very bottom of the underworld now. When you're in the nadir, the bottom, that's what the ordeal is. The ordeal is what happens at the bottom. And what happens at the bottom? We change directions from going down to going up. That is the ordeal. The achievement of the changing of directions. That is the climax of Act 2. The achievement of the changing of directions. From going further and further, down, down, deep, deep, worse, worse. And now we gotta actually, kill the ego or something like this, lose Obi-Wan, lose our mentor, something bad, but then at the same time, find that special spark. Get that thing we need. And this is when you get the Grail. And then the climax of Act 3 is going to be when you deliver the Grail to save the world. So the end of Act 3, the climax of Act 3, you might get the elixir. You've got that little bitty bit of elixir you're going to use to save the world. The climax of Act 3, you're delivering the elixir to the world. You're saving the whole world. This is crucial because when you're trying to make a good story, it's too hard not to end up with an A and a B story. The way you have a climactic middle, this is one of the crucial ways to achieve a climactic middle in addition to a climactic end, which gives you the movement that you really want for a full feature or any great story. That climactic middle can be achieved when you use it to get the thing you need to achieve the climactic end. And you also use that climactic middle to have something really negative and bad happen. Somebody dies, we lose. The plan doesn't go as we expected. So that's just a quick overview of Act 2. And then Act 3, we're going to bring that elixir back. We're going to deliver it home. We're going to save the world. We're going to be reborn and all that good stuff. But before we do that, let's focus in on Act 2 and now expand what we just talked about. And again, you can look at this as another way to look at the overview. Same thing. Okay. Now, okay, so just as a quick reminder, this is what we're looking at. Oops, we're looking at the waning of the moon. Act 2 is when the moon wanes from the half moon to the new moon.